Hold on a second. How about, that's not better. Is that any better? Sorry, better? Hopefully, can you hear me now? Way better? Yes? That's good? Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, so the estimates are that it was roughly $2 trillion in wealth that was transferred yesterday. There's a ticking sound? I don't know where that's coming from. Hang on a second. No sound. Well, that's not good. No sound. Better. Better. Can hear you, but sound like a helicopter in the background. Good. Leave it. There we go. There you are. Okay. All right. Hopefully that works for the majority. You can hear me. Good. All right. I'll do this. Okay. All right. So the estimate sounds like a fan. It's fine. Just leave it. Still, you still sound like a helicopter, but it's fine. Okay. I got to fix this because I've got a lot of feedback in my ear. Maybe that was the issue. Is that still good, you guys? Ignore the ticking. Everybody, are we good? Can you hear me? Yes? Can we sit right there? The background noise is gone. You can hear me? Yes. Okay, we're good. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Tiffany. Appreciate it. All right. So the estimates yesterday after the 1,600 point drop in the stock market was around $2 trillion of wealth that was lost. I want to get into this topic of cognitive dissonance today because we hear it thrown around a lot, but I just think it's really, really important for people who don't know what it is. I spent a little bit of time last night just kind of researching the history of it and the scientists and the psychologists who sort of discovered it and found out about it and discussed it in terms of what it meant then and how it manifests into what we have now. So as I mentioned, the stock market crashed significantly yesterday, and we expect more of the same. So the futures market prior to opening is estimated to be down another 1,200 points today, which will bring the Dow under 40,000 for the first time in a long time. So what you're seeing from the right in response to that are examples of cognitive dissonance, right? So first of all, I want to play some sound so that we can sort of level set as to some of the things that the twice impeached, four-time indicted, sexually abusing fraudster, convicted felon has said about the stock market, okay? Stand by.
Crash. We're going to have a crash. Cash versus Kamala crash. We're going to have a crash like 1929 if she gets in. It will not be pretty. Thank you.
Okay. So that is something that Trump said on the campaign trail. Trump cash versus Kamala crash is what he said, right? And then there's this famous tweet that he posted just a couple years ago. And this was from 2012. He said in a tweet in 2012, he said, if the Dow drops 1,000 points in 2 days, the president should be impeached immediately. Okay, well, we've had more than one of those examples over the last, 90, 85 days, however long it's been, 85 days of hell. We've seen multiple examples of the Dow has crashed more than 1,000 points in 2 days. So to explain that away, what's happened is his followers are saying it's part of the strategy, right? The strategy is because, and I've heard this, and I was trolling the streets last night, and I was listening to right wing spaces, and a very common theme from the right now is to say, well, the stock market is only played by millionaires and billionaires. So Trump is causing that to happen so that the millionaires and billionaires will suffer, and that will mean more money in our pockets. You're right. And they keep calling it a correction, right? Exactly. Tell that to your 401k. As we discussed yesterday, by the way, it was great having Felice here. We're going to be doing more of that. So thank you all for your kind words after yesterday's show. We know that in our system, the transfer of wealth happens on the backs of the middle class, lower class, teacher retirement funds, firefighter retirement funds, 401ks, pensions, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Whenever those things suffer, it's the people who have capital. To be able to hedge, to be able to short the market, you have to have a certain amount of money to be able to do that. So when the market crashes, that wealth transfers. It just doesn't disappear. It goes to people who are in a position to scoop it up. So we'll be watching the opening of the market today because it's estimated to be down between another 1,300 and 1,500 points today. And that's crazy. We're talking about the percentage that we're talking about, the biggest percentage drop in decades. And that's because the largest tax hike, non-wartime hack tax hike put on the American citizens ever, right? So that's, again, this is what's happened. So this brings us to cognitive dissonance. So the three things that I want to talk about specifically as it relates to cognitive dissonance are ending wars, so no new wars, termination of the Constitution, and the economy. Those are things that we know that Trump talked about. We also have examples of the response that the right gives when each of these items come up. So first, let's go through what cognitive dissonance is, because it's been studied for a very long time. There's a gentleman by the name of Leon Festinger, who sort of, I guess, I'm not going to say the grandfather of it, but he's sort of the one that kind of dove the deepest into it. So its definition is simple. It's the mental discomfort experienced when an individual holds two or more contradictory beliefs, values, or attitudes simultaneously. This psychological phenomenon occurs when beliefs, values, or actions contradict one another, leading to feelings of unease or tension. It was first developed by Leon Festinger in 1957 and is considered a crucial driver of reflection, change, and critical thinking. So think about some of the things that we know in Trump's space, right? Whenever the evidence is irrefutable, we can use the E. Jean Carroll case as an example. I think we have many examples. We'll get into more of them as we go out in the morning. Again, everybody, please keep tapping and sharing. Please consider gifting. Please consider subscribing, and please pick up some merch. Any items sold in the merch store between now and next Friday, all proceeds will go to support an extended family member in our community that we're trying to help out. Okay, the E. Jean Carroll case, right? The evidence was irrefutable. 9 people on the jury found him liable for SA. The judge clarified that what he did was grape. The response to that, because his followers won't allow themselves to believe it, is to say, well, it was only civil, or it was in New York, or the judge didn't give clear instructions, weaponized, witch hunt, etc. Same thing applies to the Stormy Daniels, to the hush money case. 34 felony convictions, overwhelming evidence, a chance to testify against, lost his fucking mind. Again, sworn statements, sworn affidavits, actual crimes. The response from the right is to say, again, judge is complicit, Soros funded, donated to the Democrats. Again, the evidence is so obviously overwhelming that they have to find a way to push back, because if they allow themselves to accept the reality that the person that they are all invested in, their entire identity, then the game's over. That's the end of the cult. Okay, so I'm just gonna take you through this exercise because I like the way that they broke this down. I hope you will too. Let me just find what it was that I wanted to read. Did I lose it? Oh, I didn't. Let's see. I have so many things that I wanted to cover today. All right, so here we go. Do you ever get the nagging feeling of discomfort when your beliefs and actions don't quite line up? Like when you swear you'll stick to your budget but can't resist buying that new pair of shoes, or when you extol the virtues of honesty but then tell a little white lie to avoid an awkward conversation? It happens to the best of us, but there's actually a name for that discomfort you're experiencing. It's called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a mental discomfort that results from holding two conflicting beliefs, values, or attitudes. People tend to seek consistency in their attitudes and perceptions, so this conflict causes unpleasant feelings of unease or discomfort. The inconsistency between what people believe and how they behave motivates them to engage in actions that will help minimize feelings of discomfort. People attempt to relieve this tension in different ways, such as by rejecting, explaining away, or avoiding new information. How many times have you guys seen me either debate someone or in conversations with someone, or you've trolled the streets, or even family members, when you're saying, I don't know how you could disagree with what's happening. It's right in front of you. Case in point, the sign behind me, right? We know that the Wall Street crash is a result of Trump's economic policy. There's no defending it. We can look at when he started sharing the rhetoric about tariffs. We can look at when the stock market decided to go down, came back up, removing some tariffs, adding tariffs back in again, more tariffs, all that volatility, and then Liberation Day and the stock market crashed. And yet people on the right are still trying to find ways to blame someone else because of promises made. So let's play a little sound specific to promises made, because I think it's really, really important when we sort of try to connect the dots as to the things that he has said specifically about it. So this was an interview just yesterday. And I'll try to, the sound is kind of quiet from the reporter, but you get the idea.
The markets today are way down.
The markets are down.
Because of the tariffs. So how's it going?
I think it's going very well. It was an
So he was asked, how's it going? And this is his answer. I think it's going very well.
operation, like when a patient gets operated on, and it's a big thing. I said this would exactly be the way it is. We have $6 or $7 trillion coming into our country, and we've never seen anything like it. The markets are going to boom, the stock is going to boom, the country is going to boom, and the rest of the world wants to see is there any way they can make a deal. They've taken advantage of us for many, many years. For many years, we've been at the wrong side of the ball, and I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be unbelievable.
Stock market's going to boom. It's exactly what I told you was going to happen. So he is, again, outward reach to his base saying, don't worry, I got you. This is all part of the plan. Don't worry about the stock market crashing. It's the fake news. It's fake. Thanks, Brandon. It's all Joe. It's fucking Hillary. It's the deep state. The media's underreporting it. It's all part of it. So they're like, okay, thank you for peeing on me and telling me it's raining, and they're believing it. So that's one example, right? There are many, many more, and we're going to cover off on all of them today, well, as many as we can. So then back to sort of defining what cognitive dissonance is. Okay. The inconsistency between what people believe and how they behave motivates them to engage in actions that will help minimize feelings of discomfort. People attempt to relieve this tension in different ways, such as by rejecting, explaining away, or avoiding new information. Here are some signs. Everyone experiences cognitive dissonance to some degree, but that doesn't mean it's always easy to recognize. Some signs that what you are feeling might be related to cognitive dissonance include feeling uncomfortable before doing something or making a decision. Sure. You might feel like, I don't know if that's the right way to go, but taking directions. You might look at your GPS. I'm guilty of this. You might look at the GPS and say, no, you're wrong. I have a love-hate relationship with Siri when she gives me directions. And I'm like, you're wrong. I literally find myself saying, you're wrong. So I'm not sure if that would apply in this case, but there you go. Trying to justify or rationalize a decision you've made or action you've taken, right? So we can see this every single day. People trying to justify their vote, to rationalize their vote. The same people who say that they care about their country as it crumbles around them, right? Right, exactly. Feeling embarrassed or ashamed about something you've done and trying to hide your actions from other people. Would that be regret? Hey, Chris, good to see you, man. Would that be regret? Right? People feeling regretful and not willing to admit it, or embarrassed because of the decision that they made based on what we see in Trumpism. Experiencing guilt or regret about something that you've done in the past. Your vote, for example. Doing things because of a social pressure or FOMO, even if it wasn't something you wanted to do. So the people around you, depending on your ecosphere that you're in, the people around you telling you that this is what's right for America. If you don't vote for Trump, you're anti-American. If you don't vote for Trump, you're a communist. If you don't vote for Trump, you believe in that woke shit, that you've been indoctrinated by the fake media. These are all sort of peripheral examples, but as we unpack them throughout the morning, I think you'll start to see, I know most of you know, you guys are smart, the smartest chat there is on TikTok. Fight me for that. Anyway, you kind of get the idea. So here's some more examples. What does this inconsistency-related discomfort look like in everyday life? The thing is, you probably are not going to experience and think, this is cognitive dissonance. You're going to feel uncomfortable, but you're going to experience it more as guilt, shame, or regret. In some cases, you'll rationalize the feelings away altogether. Here are some examples. You want to be healthy. This is a good one. You want to be healthy, but you don't exercise regularly, or you don't eat a nutritious diet, and then you feel guilty as a result. Right? Number one New Year's resolution, gym membership. This is the year. This is the year I'm going to read more. This is the year I'm going to quit smoking. This is the year I need to get more healthy. Yet we don't do anything about it, right? You know that smoking or drinking too much is harmful to your health, but you do it anyway. You rationalize this action by pointing to your high stress levels. Yeah, I want to smoke, but I am so busy. I want to give up smoking. I don't want to drink anymore, but I'm so busy. I'm so stressed out. I bust my ass. I need a little something for me, right? Back of your head, it's just not healthy for you, right? You'd like to build up your savings, but tend to spend extra cash as soon as you get it. You regret this decision later, such as when facing an unexpected expense that you don't have the money to cover. We're all in that position, especially now. You have a long to-do list, but spend the day watching your favorite show or doom scrolling on TikTok. You don't want your spouse to know, so you try to make it look like you've worked hard all day, right? We have conversations with people on this app who like to judge the left, saying, all you do is sit on TikTok all day, lib. Meanwhile, they're on TikTok talking to the libs. Cognitive dissonance examples in TV shows. Several television shows and movies contain characters experiencing cognitive dissonance. Mean Girls, Friends, Truman Show, Irresistible, and Stand By Me, right? So then causes. We don't purposely want to make ourselves feel bad. So why does this feeling seem to creep up on us so often? There are several different situations that can create conflicts that lead to cognitive dissonance, okay? Forced compliance. Sometimes you might find yourself engaging in behaviors that are opposed to your own beliefs due to external expectations at work, school, or in a social situation. This might involve going along with something due to peer pressure. So families that historically vote Republican, no matter what community you're a part of, you're told based on social peer pressure that if you don't do this, then what's wrong with you ultimately? I think that's a big one that we're going to unpack a little bit more as we go out the morning. This might involve going along with something due to peer pressure or doing something at work or to avoid getting fired. So you might know something is just not right, but you don't want to speak up. We talk about this, how it's all men until it's no men. People who believe in that, right? Who believe that locker room talk is harmful, and or they're talking about pushing away from their misogyny and the patriarchy. But when the time comes to do something about it, they don't. So they're part of the problem. All men until it's no men. Because you're being pressured to comply by outside forces, you are more likely to experience some degree of dissonance. New information. Sometimes learning new information can lead to feelings of cognitive dissonance. For example, If you engage in a behavior that you later learn is harmful, it can lead to feelings of discomfort. If you voted for a fascist Nazi and you're finally starting to realize it, you may not come clean about that. People sometimes deal with this by finding ways to justify their behaviors or finding ways to discredit or ignore new information. It's fake. Thanks, Brandon. Fucking Hillary, the deep state, right? This makes sense to everybody, I'm sure, because you guys are fucking smart. Okay. Decisions. People make decisions both large and small on a daily basis. When faced with two similar choices, we're often left with feelings of dissonance because both options are equally appealing. I think this one is interesting because what we often see, especially in the political space, is Kellyanne Conway's alternative facts and the actual facts. So I'm going to give some examples, right? So I found this, there's this TikTok, or I'm sorry, Instagram channel. It's called, I forget the creator's name. I'll post it, but he interviews his dad. He interviews his dad and his mom. So he talks to his dad and mom about topics that we discuss every single day. His dad's got very, very strong contradictory opinions, and his mom sort of straddles the fence. So I'll give you an example. Let's talk about this.
That Trump should be able.
Here we go.
Do you think that Trump should be able to override the Constitution?
He's not overriding the Constitution. 14th Amendment was put in place to let blacks have babies free on the soil. It has nothing to do with the illegal aliens. Therefore, the 14th Amendment does not apply to this situation.
It 100% does, so much so that a judge in Seattle halted the executive order.
Not.
Then how did this judge in Seattle come to that conclusion?
It was put in place for black slaves to have their kids stay here on the soil. It has nothing to do with the illegal aliens, and they are all banned from my country.
Okay, well, you're wrong about that, and a judge disagrees with you.
I'm not wrong about that. You are. And you're going to find that out as soon as it starts going through the courts.
So you think that all of these courts, especially this one in Seattle who halted the act, saying it's unconstitutional.
Yeah, they're going to reverse it.
Okay. So you believe you know more about the 14th Amendment and constitutional law than a judge?
Yes.
All right. Mom, you also kind of revere the Constitution, right?
I'm all confused now, actually, because I don't know what he's talking about.
So it's a Necessary Conversation podcast. You can find that on Instagram, or you can search for wherever you find your podcast. It's called The Necessary Conversation. He does these questions with his parents often. So this one specifically, and I said trigger warning regarding what his dad said about persons of color. So apologies there. I meant to say that in advance. This is an example, right, of because of what Trump has said to them, and what the right-wing ecosphere and these constitutional lawyers have said, that the president has powers to pick and choose. I bring that up specifically because of some of the things that we talked about during the campaign when we referenced this particular Truth Social post that Trump put out in December of 2022. So, with the revelation, this is from Trump on Truth Social. You guys have heard this before, but I think for the purpose of this conversation, it's necessary to bring it up again. So with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception, and working closely with big tech companies, the DNC and the Democrat Party, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. So when we were having these conversations, leading up to the election, and we were reminding people that these are the things that he said that he would do. First of all, they didn't accept that. They tried to turn it into a semantics argument. They're saying, well, in his mind, there was fraud. So therefore, what's the point in having the Constitution? So an example of cognitive dissonance, right? Now that he is the president, right? when we see numerous examples of him terminating the Constitution, whether it be regarding birthright citizenship. And by the way, if you're born here, it wasn't just about enslaved black people. It's birthright citizenship. And you're protected under the law according to the 14th Amendment, right? The Constitution is brilliant in that it clearly depicts between what is a citizen and what is a person. All persons are protected under the rights of the Constitution through due process. So Dad, in this case, believes that the judges are wrong because what Trump is trying to do is eliminate an entire element of our Constitution because it doesn't fit Dad's narrative. Cognitive dissonance. Okay? I think that's a really, really good example of what it is that we're talking about. And we'll get into some more of these as we go out the morning. Everybody, please keep tapping and sharing. I appreciate y'all very, very much. I don't have my hype girl here today, Felice, so you guys got to do me a solid. We're only at 30,000 likes, guys. We've been going for a half an hour. If everybody could do me a solid, I'd appreciate that. All right, I'll bring up Kabert first, and then we'll continue our conversations. Everybody, keep tapping and sharing, please. Good morning, Kabert. How are you today? Hello? Kabert? Kabert, are you there? Going once. Going twice. Sold. Okay. Good morning, Meg. How are you today?
Good morning, Steve. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you for doing what the heck you're doing. I'm in California, so what I'm doing is I wake up every day on accident at like 5 and eat mac and cheese. So I'm good. I love mac and cheese.
Excellent.
I wanted to say to you, ma'am, and good morning, everybody. Love Steve and love Felice. Just saying. I have a thought, and I want to know what you think, because I feel like it's a liberal hot take, and I feel like at least one person here heard it earlier. Is that okay with me to share?
Sure.
So I say this because I think that we deserve, as like white people and people who maybe are like more gender conforming, I think we have this responsibility to bear, and it's because of my MAGA ass family. I think that it's on some liberal people who could easily be assumed to be like straight and cis, right? To kind of peacefully protest. I think it's like on us to allow POC like not to bear the burden of labor of like yelling and explaining to people. Like I think it's on us, man, and I think it's on us to convince the right, especially the alt-right, to be like understanding of exactly what the heck you're talking about. And I had someone.
Is it though?
Yeah, I've had people tell me this, and I've had POC tell me the same thing and the opposite. And then today I actually went on a live, and they were like, "Nah, you can be super mad. It's okay." They suggested like, what did they say? Like convincing nonviolence or something. I freaking forgot, and I'm upset that I did. But I would love to hear what you think and what the chat thinks. I'll read it after you explain.
Yeah, so I talk about this a lot. So I absolutely believe, so like it's all men until it's no men. I think it's all white people until it's no white people. So I absolutely agree. I don't know if it's on those of us who do care about the rights of others to try to convince the red hats. I think part of the conversation that I like to have regularly is that we have a lot of voter apathy in our country. There's a lot of people who decide that they're just not going to participate in democracy and then complain when the communities that they support are under the thumb of fascism. So I think there's a line there. Now I know that there are a lot of people who have targets within our community to try to either motivate voters or to change minds. Like some people feel like they can connect with MAGA. Some people feel like they can connect with the disenfranchised Republicans. Some people feel like they can connect with communities that they represent. My target is voter apathy, non-voters, protest voters, and people who just don't participate enough. So I think you can have more than one approach, but I don't feel like, at least from my perspective, that I'm not going to do a lot of reaching out to try to convince the right or MAGA in particular to join us. I'm just going to keep talking about it. I'm going to keep saying that it is all men until it's no men. It is all white people until it's no white people.
Thank you for saying that, man. I've been confused kind of, and I'm trying to gather information. I've been on a few POC lives. I've been on a few like white people lives, excuse me, and I've just been confused, and I have heard something really different from both POC and YT friends, and yeah, I think maybe there's like this weird codependent part of me because the thing that I want to do is that I want to avoid bearing the burden of labor and convincing because POC have literally like begged for that, like for acceptance and understanding their whole lives. So what
I don't want to speak for them. I'm not gonna speak for them. I'm just gonna know what I'm going to do as a white privileged man in America to recognize my privilege and try to use it to make changes.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Fairy Dust says a comment, and I would like to say, okay, I'm thinking about my black friends, right? And so I guess I'm just trying to gather data to understand and analyze like what the heck I should be doing. And I think
Calling
there's
out
like,
other are you a YT person?
yeah, man. I'm
Calling out other YT people. That's what you can do.
that part. I get it, man. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, a part of me, someone actually clocked me for being like calling me. I kept saying manipulative, and they were like, "You're not trying to manipulate. You're trying to convert, and you're trying to persuade." And so, like, this is some method you can do, right? So I understand. I had this weird phone call with my mom where I was really standing up for. It was specifically about trans people, and man, they're brainwashed, and it's really sad. And I won't cry about it on your live, dude. But she was like, I told her I wanted to get a waitressing job, and she was like, "Oh, Trump is actually like you're gonna go get so much savings because there's no tax on tips." And I was like, "What the heck do you mean, woman?" And she was like. She said it was there, and I said, why? And she was like, because Trump said so while he campaigned. And
Cognitive dissonance.
crazy, right? And you know what? I'm trying to empathize a little bit because we all have it to some degree about varying topics, heavy underline and bold italics. When I say varying topics, mine applies to my ED of 12 years, right? But yeah, maybe.
I understand. I understand what you're saying, and I do want to get move on to somebody else. But I think an example, like we often talk about, there's this thing referred to as the bypass technique. If you choose to engage with people who are contradictory to your belief set, so when someone brings up, for example, no tax on tips, ask them to show you what that looks like. I understand that he talked about that on the campaign trail, but where can I find information about that? Because I didn't read about this in the proposed budget from the House or the Senate. I would say put them on the spot a little bit because this is the misinformation and disinformation that we have to fight against. But thanks for jumping in today, Meg. I appreciate you very much. You have a good
Thank
day.
you. I read the comments. Thank you all for commenting, and thank you, Steve, for commenting. I have some work to do. Thank you.
got it.
Y'all are the best.
Have a good day. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, man.
Again, I think these are all examples of how we have to choose how we're going to approach. You know, we all live in one country, although apparently Trump doesn't necessarily agree with that. Anyway, back to the sort of the topic that we're talking about, because I think every time we see an example would be like just the whole no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. This would be an example, right? This would be an example of something that you've been told, right? So again, Trump ran on economic reform, no new wars, right? Putting more money in your pocket, all these kinds of things. So when you use rhetoric that no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, those things are appealing. Those things are appealing to everyone. Well, there's no proof that any of that's ever going to happen. And that's an example because they told, now for the right to be able to respond without feeling embarrassed or guilty, like we just discussed in some of the examples of what cognitive dissonance looks like, would require them to lose connection to their identity. The right often refers to the left as running on identity politics. It's because that's all they have. Their entire identity is wrapped up in this particular movement, Trumpism, right? Okay, so let's get back to our conversation here. So we talked about new information. Sometimes learning new information can lead to feelings of cognitive dissonance. For example, if you engage in a behavior that you later learn is harmful, it can lead to feelings of discomfort. People sometimes deal with this by finding ways to justify their behaviors or finding ways to discredit or ignore new information. Decisions. People make decisions both large and small on a daily basis. When faced with two similar choices, we are often left with feelings of dissonance because both options are equally appealing. Alternative facts, the real facts. I can choose to follow the herd because I've been told to, and it's safe, and my friends won't call me out. I can put my MAGA hat on and assimilate and not have to worry about it, put my head in the sand, or I can choose to look at the actual facts. But that's going to make me feel really uncomfortable because my entire belief set has been based on the flock, right? Once a choice has been made, however, people need to find a way to reduce these feelings of discomfort. We accomplish this by justifying why our choice was the best option so we can believe that we made the right decision. Not the correct decision, but the right decision based on their own internal biases, right? Cognitive dissonance can be caused by feeling forced to do something, learning new information, or when faced with a decision between two similar choices. Here's some things that influence it, okay? The degree of dissonance experienced can depend on a few different factors. Among them are how highly a particular belief is valued and the degree to which the beliefs are inconsistent. The overall strength of the dissonance can also be influenced by several factors, including the importance attached to each belief. Cognitions that are more personal, such as beliefs about oneself and highly valued, tend to result in greater dissonance. All I know is when Trump was president, I made more money. All I know is I want to protect, girls and women's sports. All I know is I don't want my daughter in a bathroom with a trans man, right? They personalize everything because they've been taught to do it that way. The number of dissonant beliefs. The more dissonant, clashing thoughts one has, the greater the strength of the dissonance. When you double down on things, right? When Trump told his voters that Kamala was going to crash the economy and he was going to put cash in your pocket, the economy is now crashing, stock market in particular, because of Trump. They have nowhere to turn other than to say it's part of the plan. He's going after the rich people so the rest of us will then be prosperous. Case in point, what Ford Motor Company did yesterday, right? They announced better than employee pricing available to their customers. Now, this is not something unique. We've seen car dealers do things like this, especially when they're about ready to move into the new model year. They try to move inventory. So what the right's response has been is that, you see, this is exactly what Trump told us was going to happen. American manufacturers are gonna wilt, and they're gonna be forced to lower the prices so that all Americans benefit. No, the truth behind this is that the Ford Motor Company is not stupid. They know that they've got to move inventory because otherwise people are not going to pay between $6,000 and $12,000 more for a new car. You justify it because of what the messenger, in this case, the cult leader, aka Donald Trump, has said. You're right, exactly, Tootle. Meanwhile, Stellantis is laying off 900 people and more. So that's a real-time example based on what's happened yesterday. Cognitive dissonance can often have a powerful influence on our behaviors and actions. It doesn't just influence how you feel. It also motivates you to take action to reduce the feelings of discomfort, right? So you go into a live, you got your red hat on, and you're going to dunk on the liberals because of your beliefs. I feel things were better under Trump than they were under Biden. I feel like the left is indoctrinating society. I feel that socialists are taking over our society. I feel, you did think? Did I miss something? think let's just, yeah, Heard and McDonald Islands, in case you guys didn't know, and I'll touch on this. I'll get back to the conversation. Thank you, brother, for saying that. Heard and McDonald Islands were two countries that were included in a 10% reciprocal tariff. They're uninhabited. I don't know why we put reciprocal tariffs on penguins, but we'll talk about that. So thanks for sending me that, bro. All right. So how cognitive dissonance feels. Cognitive dissonance can make people feel uneasy and uncomfortable. This is particularly true if the disparity between their beliefs and behaviors involves something that is central to their sense of self. You've been told, think about this. We've been told that the Republican Party is all about small government. I should say conservatives. Conservatives are about small government, fiscal responsibility, safety, security, and support for the military. That is the message that has come from the right for years, right? This goes back pre-Ronald Reagan even, but in particular since Reagan, right? Since he's to blame for everything. When the party is anything but those four things, they're not fiscally conservative. They drive us into recessions. They're not about small government. They're about expanding government, including what you have in your bedside table and women's bodies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're not about safety and security. They had an opportunity to fix the border. They chose not to. And they're certainly not about our veterans. They use them as tokens every conversation that they can get. But because their supporters and their voters have been told that for years, anything other than agreeing with the narrative puts their entire belief set in question. Right? Okay. So discomfort can manifest itself in a variety of ways. Someone with dissonance may feel anxiety. Yep. Embarrassment, regret, sadness, shame, stress, rage quitting, right? Yelling and screaming, over talking, interrupting. These are all examples of anxiety, embarrassment, regret, sadness, shame, and stress. Cognitive dissonance can even influence how people feel about and view themselves, leading to negative feelings of self-esteem and self-worth. How many times have we said, again, I'll speak for myself. I believe that MAGA voters in particular are the epitome of identity politics. They have wrapped their entire identities into Trumpism. They are proud to have their hats, by the way, that are made in China that are just about to get hit with another 54% tariff. Anyway, that's a different conversation. Their entire identity, their red hat wearing pride, their Velociraptor flag on the back of their truck, their Trump meme coins, their gold sneakers, everything is about their identity to Trumpism. There's an old selling technique that if anybody's ever gone through sales training, you talk about everybody wants to be in the club. So oftentimes and I'll land the plane quickly. When you're talking to a customer and they are resistant, they're not returning your calls, you get a meeting and they're not willing to move. Oftentimes they say, okay, well then I'll just take you off my list and I won't bother calling you anymore. That elicits an emotional response from that person. I don't want to be taken off the list. What do you mean you're going to take me off the list? Well, you said you're not interested. I'll just take you off the list. No, I don't want to be taken off the list. It's the subconscious reaction to that. Like I want to be included. FOMO, fear of missing out. So this is another example, right? These folks don't want to be excluded from something. Therefore, they're going to double down on their beliefs. If I don't believe everything that Trump tells me, then I'm susceptible to not believing anything he tells me, right? Okay. What happens when we experience it? I'm almost done with this part. I'll get into some more examples. Everybody keep tapping and sharing, please. I really, really appreciate you. Just as a reminder, any and all sales, so proceeds from the sales of items at our merch store, there's some new stuff in there, including I Am Fucking Zen mug, feral as fuck mug. Any and all proceeds from sales between now and next Friday will go to an individual in our community that could use some help. This person would never ask. We're going to try to help them anyway. Also, if you would like to donate, you can use my Cash Apps and Venmo and PayPal. It's all the same. Just put help in the note and I'll know that this is going to go to this particular person. Thank you all very, very much. And let me just check real quick on that topic. Thank you to Thank you to Marcy. Thank you, Marcy, for your $5. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate you very much as well. You're very, very kind. Also, thank you to Sherry. Thank you, Sherry, for your kind contributions. You guys are all very, very kind. I appreciate that. Okay. Because people want to avoid discomfort, cognitive dissonance can have a wide range of effects. Dissonance can play a role in how we act, think, and make decisions. We may engage in behaviors or adopt attitudes to help relieve the discomfort caused by the conflict. Some things that a person might do to cope with these feelings include adopting beliefs or ideas to help justify or explain away the conflict between their beliefs or behaviors. This can sometimes involve blaming other people or outside factors. Fucking Hillary, deep state, it's fake. Thanks, Brandon. We've seen it the last 24 hours, right? The end of, $2 trillion of wealth being transferred to the wealthiest on the back of middle-class Americans is like always happens. What about Biden, right, Benny? What about Biden, right? Perfect example. This is a perfect example. No matter what Trump has done, and I've said this a million times, he is brilliant at it. And the right-wing echo chamber, marketing from a marketing perspective, they are brilliant at it. No matter what. The Signal chat controversy, for example, right? The Signal chat controversy is a really, really good one. It was the journalist's fault. A failing newspaper, a failing magazine. Why this nationalist is out to are the ones that are responsible. And by the way, some of those National Security County people got National Security Committee people, National Security Council people got fired yesterday. We can talk about that. I'm going to give you an example of specifically as it relates to the Signal chat and how we're talking about cognitive dissonance. So you guys know James O'Brien. He's a British talk show host. And I really like the way in which he sort of cuts to the chase, unfiltered. Let me see if I can find the right one. I want to play it for you because I think it's really, really relevant and important for this conversation. And then I've got some other news I want to play you. So this is James O'Brien. He is, like I said, he's a Brit, and he's great in the way in which he talks about American politics. Here we go.
Know anything about it? I'm not a big fan of the Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it.
What a liar. What an almighty, irredeemable, hideous liar. What an appalling act of... I mean, hey, if I was Donald Trump's PR, I'd take liar. Thank God they're calling him a liar. They're not pointing out how incompetent he would have to be to truly know nothing about this event. Liar is a win. That's how his little brain works. That's how it whirs. What's the least thing? What's the thing I can do now that insulates me most from the obvious disaster that I'm caught up in? How does my narcissistic self-obsession deal with this crisis? Okay. I can't say that. I can't defend it. I don't know anything about it. What? What's that you say? Who? What? Who? Where? What? Oh, and I'll shoot the messenger as well. Shoot the messenger. In fact, I'll shoot the messenger first. And then I will. So his brain is working. You can hear it, can't you?
I can't defend it. I can't justify it. I can't let people know that I, in fact, don't hire the best. Because, again, I can't, the facade, the man behind the curtain. So I'm just going to lie. And his followers will just gobble it up. Because they will say, oh, because Trump told me it's the journalist that he didn't know anything about it, so therefore he's not responsible. More examples to come. Good morning, Eve. How are you today?
Excellent. It is a fabulous Friday morning.
It is indeed.
I thought I'd pop up here and do a quick little mod announcement before I go in and do some capitalism.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you. What you got?
I got a couple of items, actually. First, let me just say good morning to our chat. I hope everyone is ready for the weekend. Y'all know that I'm here to remind you to please support our fabulous hostess with the mostest. He's our decently deferential daydreamer that drives dames to dampness daily. And he's here every day with that fiery feral fist for freedom, bringing you facts over feelings because facts still matter and they always will.
Whoa. Okay.
You can find the pay-apps in the link tree of his bio, as well as the Facts HQ and Discord link. You can reach the HQ via FactsStillMatter.site, where we've got live sources that are referenced here on the show and community resources. You can view and purchase merchandise, including the mugs that Facts had mentioned, and the new Facts merchandise fundraising bundle. There's more than 15 items, including buttons, keychains, bookmarks. Go and check it out. All of the proceeds go to helping a member of our community. And if you're a sub, you get 10% off merchandise. If you're not a sub, I just don't know what you're doing, especially if you're placing an order. It literally pays for itself. If you're just looking for a fun free forum for the Facts family to frolic, then Discord is the place. If the link doesn't work, try to copy and paste it into a browser or Google. If that doesn't work, reach out to a moderator and we'll hook you up. When you join, please open a ticket. There's a couple quick little questions to answer. It's part of our process to maintain a safe space. If you need assistance with that, then ask away in the unverified lobby and we'll help walk you through it. Now, if you haven't already, please click that follow or heart me up at the top of the screen next to Fax's name. You can join the team for the cost of a penny. You can do this every day, and it helps to keep us relevant and on the FYP. The main thing that we ask is for y'all to interact in the comments as well as tapping your little hearts out. It's always free to tap and share out the live. If you don't have any friends, just click the copy link. It works the same as a share, and no one will be the wiser. When you have a chance, head on over to YouTube and subscribe to Facts Still Matter there as well. Like a comment, a video, and comment. You can rewatch shows for any information that you may have missed, and subscriptions on YouTube are free, just like following your favorite creators here on TikTok. With that, I'll just say be kind, smile at a stranger, and have a fuck your feelings kind of day.
Thank you for the sufficient blushing. I appreciate you. Here, go back to capitalism. Have a good day. Thank you.
Facts After Dark tonight?
I think so. I'm waiting for the mod team to respond. I'm assuming so. It's up to you guys. You tell me. I'll go if necessary. I'm ready.
Okay, well, we'll let you know then.
Okay. Bye.
Wait.
Oh my gosh, that was crazy. Okay. Hey now, wait. Okay. So yes, we're still waiting on. We'll make a call later today if we're going to do Facts After Dark tonight. I'll let you guys know. But thank you. All right. So we talk about what happens when we experience cognitive dissonance, hiding beliefs or behaviors from other people. People may feel ashamed of their conflicting beliefs and behaviors, hiding the disparity from others to minimize feelings of shame and guilt. Only seeking out information that confirms existing beliefs. This phenomenon, known as confirmation bias, affects the ability to think critically about a situation, but helps minimize feelings of dissonance. We talk in this space often about primary sources and why it's really, really important that you not believe me, that you challenge what you see, the whole point is not about being right; it's about being correct. Big difference. People who experience confirmation bias and then cognitive dissonance are stuck in that cycle that they are told what to think and what to believe. The example that we gave from Trump, right? About that interview, the story that James O'Brien talked about. I don't know anything about it. And you heard members of MAGA saying, oh, he didn't know anything about it. It's not his fault. Well, he's the guy that said he's going to only hire the best. Well, people make mistakes. Things happen. Okay, just like people made mistakes under the Biden administration. Now, what about Biden? So that's that spiral. That's really dangerous. All right, to summarize this whole thing, people like to believe that they are logical, consistent, and good at making decisions. Cognitive dissonance can interfere with the perceptions they hold about themselves and their abilities, which is why it can often feel so uncomfortable and unpleasant. dealing with dissonance. When there are conflicts between cognitions, thoughts, beliefs, and opinions, people will take steps to reduce the dissonance and feelings of discomfort. They can go about this in a few different ways. Adding more beliefs to outweigh dissonant beliefs. People who learn that greenhouse emissions result in global warming might experience feelings of dissonance if they drive a gas-guzzling vehicle. To reduce this dissonance, they may seek out new information that overrides the belief that greenhouse gases contribute to global warming. We see that example. I think it's a really, really good one. We see that when it comes to the firearm debate. When we tell them that the number one cause of death for people under the age of 18 are firearms, their response to that is more firearms or universal health care. When we tell them that we spend the most and we have 40-second outcome, their response is, well, they wait a long time in England. They wait a long time in Canada. Meanwhile, we wait a long time here too, and we get lousy outcomes. So there's hundreds of examples on that one. That would be adding more beliefs. Reducing the importance of the conflicting belief. A person who cares about their health might be disturbed to learn that sitting for long periods of time during the day is linked to a shortened lifespan. Since they work all day in an office and spend a great deal of time sitting, it is difficult to change their behavior. To deal with the feelings of discomfort, then, they might find some way of rationalizing the conflicting cognition. For instance, they may justify their sedentary behavior by saying that their other healthy behaviors, like eating sensibly and occasionally exercising, make up for their largely sedentary lifestyle, right? Makes perfect sense. Changing beliefs. Changing the conflicting cognition is one of the most effective ways of dealing with dissonance, but is also the most difficult, particularly in the case of deeply held values and beliefs, such as religious or political leanings. Is there anything to talk about in regards to that? You're told that your morality is based on your religion, and that people who don't believe what you believe, have no morals. You're right, Marlene. Religion is a hard spell to break, but we've crossed into this zeitgeist that is religion and politics intertwined, because Trumpism, in my opinion, and MAGA is no different than a religious cult, quite frankly, because it's the same people that are saying that Donald Trump was sent by God. God saved him when he put the napkin over his ear. God influenced Donald Trump to save America. And their devotee, their devout nature to him, their loyalty to him, their constant reverence and deference paid to him is very similar to religion, right? So that's a tough one to separate from. This is the cult speak. This is deconstructing from religion, deconstructing from a cult, deconstructing from MAGA. Okay? All right. Let's see. Some of the ways people reduce discomfort from cognitive dissonance include seeking information that aligns with and supports their current beliefs, reducing the conflicting beliefs' importance, and changing beliefs to reduce the feelings of conflict, right? Seeking out confirmation bias. Instead of understanding that they might be wrong, instead of having a willingness to try to learn, to try to realize that maybe I was wrong about that, right? Instead, they will double down. So they will go to extreme sources. They will go to Newsmax. They will dive into right-wing chat 4chan. They will dive in and they will seek out other people in this app who are hosting lives, who are talking about the things that they believe, right? Okay, potential pitfalls. Sometimes the ways that people resolve cognitive dissonance contribute to unhealthy behaviors or poor decisions. In A Theory of Cognitive Dissonance, Leon Festinger, the psychologist who first described this phenomenon, gives an example of how a person might deal with dissonance related to a health behavior by discussing individuals who continue to smoke even though they know it's harmful to their health. According to Festinger, there are a few ways that a person might resolve this dissonance. They might decide that they value smoking than they value health, deeming the behavior, quote, worth it in terms of risk versus reward. They may minimize potential drawbacks, such as by convincing themselves that the negative health effects have been overstated, or by believing that they cannot avoid every possible risk out there. The gun debate. England, you guys have a stabbing problem, right? To try to avoid the reality that we have a gun epidemic in our country and children are losing their lives, right? They might try to convince themselves that if they do stop smoking, they will gain weight, which also presents a health risk. By using these types of explanations, the smoker is able to reduce the dissonance and continue unhealthy behaviors. Leon Festinger first proposed the theory of cognitive dissonance centered on how people try to reach internal consistency. He suggested that people have an inner need to ensure that their beliefs and behaviors are consistent. Inconsistent or conflicting beliefs lead to disharmony, which people strive to avoid. In his book, 1957 book, the title is A Theory of Cognitive Dissonance. Dissonance can be seen as an antecedent condition which leads to activity oriented toward dissonance reduction, just as hunger leads towards activity oriented towards hunger reduction. It is a very different motivation from what psychologists are used to dealing with, but as we shall see, nonetheless powerful. Here are the takeaways. Cognitive dissonance plays a role in many value judgments, decisions, and evaluations. Becoming aware of how conflicting beliefs impact decision-making processes is a great way to improve your ability to make faster and more accurate choices. So what did we learn? We learned that we're all susceptible to it. And I speak in this space every single day about the importance of education. I'm not talking about, higher learning. I'm not saying that everybody needs to go to college. That's not what this is about. I'm talking about a capacity to learn. I'm talking about the ability to recognize when we're being influenced, when we're being susceptible to propaganda, when there's confirmation bias that is keeping us from finding the answer. Again, it's not about being right. It's about being correct. If you go into a debate with sincere intentions to say, I'm trying to learn, if I'm wrong, listen, I say this every single day. If I'm wrong, call me out. I have no problem with that at all. Well, for one, I'm not scared, soft, and weak. That's a different conversation. If you go into it with sincere intentions that you want the correct information, then that should drive your entire impetus, right? I want to get to the truth. What is the truth? Not the confirmation bias truth, not the alternative facts, not something that supports this narrative that's in my head, the actual truth. That's why we use data. That's why we use congressional records. That's why we use court documents. That's why we don't use opinion-based articles as fact. We can talk about someone's opinion on something, but to make the claim that it is factual is dangerous, which creates all these scenarios. Okay? Make sense? All right. Thank you for letting me take you guys through that. I think that's just a really important conversation. We'll have more of these because there's a few more other things I want to cover. I'm going to give you a dozen more examples as we go throughout the day today. Hi, Jen. How are you today?
Good. Can you hear me?
I can. Yes.
Okay. I am so glad that you're talking about cognitive dissonance today because I can tell you, as a person who's grown up in a cult, it is real. And leaving a cult is the hardest thing that you can do. And a lot of these MAGA people, like, not only is MAGA a cult, their religion might be a cult. So their entire support system is tied up with that. And just imagine when you start to question that, you have to question everything. You have to question your religion. You have to question the people around you. And it's hard. So, I really do feel bad for the ones that are coming out. And we won't know the majority of them that do because it will be a quiet quitting. They won't tell anything. So I just wanted to let you know that I really appreciate that you're educating about this because it is so important that we understand. And also, the other thing I wanted to say is that cults need to have opposition. So when we're acting like jerks to them, we're reinforcing and we're advertising for the cult.
That's fair. I want to get your perspective on things. So would you say, just in your own experience, would you define MAGA as a cult?
I would, yes, definitely. Yeah, and this country is made up of so many different cults, and I mean, we just need to educate ourselves about cults and how they work so that we can understand how to handle the people that are coming out.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I'm conflicted about about the reach out, and I've been public here. I'm not yet to a point where I'm interested in reaching across the aisle
Yeah,
to
and
people
that's
who,
perfectly fine. I get that. People
yeah,
should wait if they're not
yeah,
ready.
yeah. I mean, but there are other people. Like there's so many minds that we have the potential to influence and change. Like for me, I've said this before. It's people who don't participate in democracy, protest voters, entitled leftists. White people who continue to white men in particular who continue to hold society back. That's my that's
Yes.
my that's my target. We've had our friend Daniela Mesnick Young, who survived the Children of God sex cult and then went into the army. And she's been on our show a few times, and she talks about it the same way you do. That MAGA and Trumpism is without question a cult because the behaviors are so similar.
Yes, I know who she is. Yes. But yeah, I
Well,
just wanted to come up and just tell you how much I appreciate you educating people about this because when we learn, it helps calm our nervous systems down. And we need to know what we're dealing with. And, if we can convert some of our enemy over, they will be the best accomplices that we can get.
it's a fair point. I appreciate you saying that, Jen. Thanks for being here today. You have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's the behaviors. I mean, you brings up a good point. Obviously, if you can, the minds are, I mean, we've had people in our community, we've had people in our community that are close to us now that used to be Trump voters, that used to be all in for the Republican Party, and they're willing to take a step back. Again, it's not about being right; it's about being correct. Do we have the correct information to make an informed decision? Do we have everything that we're supposed to know? Did you believe, for example, that tariffs were going to solve all of your problems? On True Social this morning, Trump writes this: great job numbers, far better than expected. It's already working. Hang tough. We can't lose. Job report says we added 228,000 new jobs for March. Unemployment ticked up to 4.2%. It had no positive impact on the future market. The future market pre-opening is down 1,200 points. So again, this is an example. So this is the gaslight. In his voters, you're going to listen to it. I hope that when you hear us talking about confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance, right? And when you go and you cruise the TikTok streets, or if you're in conversations, just listen for the cues, right? Just listen for the cues. People who are in the cult, people who are connected so deeply to MAGA, have to be told what to think. That's sad from the human condition. From my perspective, I think that's sad, right? They literally have to be told what to think because they cannot make the determination on their own, which is why, even though he is in obvious cognitive decline, why he's just dumb. The religious right, the evangelicals, the fascists, the puppet masters, the people running the government now need him. He's their mouthpiece because he has created this loyalty that will be studied for decades. I've never seen anything like it politically. Never seen anything like it. They need him as the mouthpiece. They need him to continue to throw chum in the water because his people genuinely think that him crashing the stock market yesterday, and actually since it's down 4,000 points since he took, almost 5,000 points since he took office, right? Somebody is going to be blamed, or that it's necessary. It's not Trump's fault, though. It's not him. He didn't do it. It's got nothing to do with that. It's the woke left-wing media. It's DEI. It's indoctrination. It's the LGBTQIA community. It's immigrants. It's everybody else. Again, cognitive dissonance because people are unwilling to look past the confirmation bias that they've been led into like a golden hook in their cheek. All right. A few other things I want to kind of cover off on. I think these are all examples of what it is that we're talking about. So this
Trump
one,
should be.
I played that one for you. So that's the whole the Constitution component, right? Where he's talking to his dad. Again, this the Necessary Conversation podcast where this guy interviews his dad. There's really cool stuff on there. Okay, so let me see. Where do I want to start with this? Let's see if I can. Let me tell you a story. Let's see. The Dow futures is still down. Let me see. Pre-market conditions. Hold on a second here. Market opens in a little while. Down 1,600 points from yesterday. Futures market is down just under 1,000 points or 2%. So we'll keep watching that. Gas prices up again, by the way. Okay. All right. So here's a connection to some of the idiocy that Trump talks about and how it resonates because people will take what he says at his word, even though it sounds incredibly stupid. Seth Meyers had some fun with this, but this was something he said a few months ago at the stock market, talking about groceries, because now groceries apparently is big on his plate. Groceries is really on his mind now. All right, let me play this for you.
Trip to Wall Street today, Trump tried to claim yet again that he didn't win because of his proximity to rich people. He won because he talked about kitchen table issues like groceries.
Prices are going to start coming down because people can't afford their groceries, and they're going to be affording their groceries very soon. I tell the story about an old woman, no money, went to a grocery store, had 3 apples. She put them down on the counter, and she looked, and she saw the price, and she said, "Would you excuse me?" And she walked one of the apples back to the refrigerator and came back to pay for the 2 apples. And she left with 2 apples. And the woman at the counter said that was so sad. And when I heard about the story, I said that should never happen in America. And it's not going to happen in America.
You know what doesn't happen in America? Grocery stores don't keep the apples in a refrigerator.
Exactly.
Story has more holes in it than the final season of Lost. Like, in your mind, who told you the story? The old woman or the woman at the counter? And by the way, if the best case scenario is the old woman buys 3 apples, then maybe you should tell Republicans to stop floating cuts to Social Security. Because if you do cut Social Security, how are you going to ever look this made-up old woman in the eye again? She could be down to 1 apple.
So the joke is, obviously, if he's never been to a grocery store, you don't keep apples in the refrigerator. Bigger point is messages like that will resonate. Messages with you guys hear Trump telling the story about the old woman? How horrible is that? Can you imagine? Under Joe Biden caused that woman to have to put 1 apple back in the refrigerator, even though they know apples don't go in the refrigerator. They know that. It's not anything new. They know it, but they can't say, "Wow, Trump sounded off his fucking nut." Like, what the hell's going on there? Some more examples of these little Trump-uendos, I like to call them. So this is Caroline Leavitt, KKK Caroline Leavitt, being asked questions about the pain that some Americans will feel because of this. And I want you to hear the spin. I want you to hear what she's attempting to do. She's horrible, but she's good at this because she's drank the Kool-Aid, right? All right, so this is what KKK Caroline had to say.
How long their wallets are going to feel this before things get better.
Yesterday was a great day for our country, and President Trump delivered on a campaign promise that he made to the 80 million American voters who elected him to this highest office, a promise that many presidents before him for decades refused to deliver upon. As for prices and what the American public can expect, they can expect price stability. They can expect to buy American. It's the patriotic thing to do. And most importantly, they can expect their wages to go up. We know that in President Trump's first term, wages went up by $6,500 per person.
This won't be painful at all for American people and consumers, Caroline?
There's not going to be any pain for American-owned companies and American workers because their jobs are going to come back home. And again, as for prices, President Trump is working on tax cuts to put more money back into the pockets of Americans.
Wow, right? There's going to be no pain. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the fact that $2 trillion with a T was transferred yesterday to the richest among us. 401ks wiped out by and large. Companies like Stellantis laying off 900 people, more cuts to come. Exponential concern and fear from the American electorate. Unemployment up again. The jobs report significantly lower than expected. But don't worry, price stability. Listen to this again. Holy fuck.
Just tell the American people, though, how long their wallets are going to feel this before things get better.
Yesterday was a great day for our country, and President Trump delivered on a campaign promise that he made to the 80 million American voters who elected him to this highest office, a promise that many presidents before him for decades refused to deliver upon. As for prices and what the American public can expect, they can expect price stability. They can expect to buy American. It's the patriotic thing to do. Jesus. And most importantly, they can expect their wages to go up. We know that in President Trump's first term, wages went up by $6,500 per person.
This won't be painful at all for American people and consumers, Caroline?
There's not going to be any pain for American-owned companies and American workers because their jobs are going to come back home. And again, as for prices, President Trump is working on tax cuts to put more money back into the pockets of Americans.
Working on tax cuts for the rich. Something that she said there, I don't know if you picked up on that. Buying American is patriotic, right? That's part of the Make America Great Again pitch. The America First pitch, because the other side of the coin of that statement is that if you don't buy American, you're not patriotic, right? That's fucked up. Can't stand her. She's sadly good as a messenger. She's good at it. Let's again be objective. She's good at it, and it's just the amount of lies that she says every single day to the American people. Again, thank you to Nancy for your kind contribution to. Like I said, we're doing a fundraiser for a member of our extended community who never asked for help. We're going to try to help anyway. Thank you to Catherine as well. I just want to make sure I'm checking here to see if we have any new members on our team. Where is that? I'll check that in a minute. Okay, moving on because we've got more to cover. This is in regards to Canada and the tariffs. Once again, the entire push around cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias is because Trump needs his voters to understand, right? He needs his voters to understand how bad this is, but yet there's a purpose behind it. This is my thought before I get into that. I do not believe that they anticipated global reaction to this. I do not believe that they thought China would respond the way that they have, the European Union would respond the way that they have, the islands with penguins. I don't think that they expected them to respond the way that they have. So I think that was obviously to say that they miscalculated would be a gross understatement. But this is another example because this was, again, part of his speech that he gave on Liberation Day, right?
Canada, by the way, imposes a 250 to 300% tariff on many of our dairy products. They do the first can of milk. They do the first little carton of milk at a very low price, but after that it gets bad, and then it gets up to 275, 300%.
So he tells his voters that Canada is sticking us with 275 to 300% surcharges on milk.
President Donald Trump's claim that the Canadian government charges triple-digit tariffs on U.S. dairy exports is misleading. There are rates that high on the books, but they would only be charged if U.S. exports exceed predetermined tariff rate quotas, which the dairy exports don't come close to meeting. Below these quotas, American dairy sales to Canada face zero tariffs. In 2024, the U.S. exported more than $1.1 billion in dairy products to Canada, a nearly 55% increase in exports since 2020. None of it was subject to triple-digit Canadian tariffs. Get the full story at factcheck.org.
Okay. Again, you're going to say, did you guys know Canada's charging us 300% for a can of milk? Did you know that? How'd you find that out? Trump told me. Yeah. Okay. Here's another example, all right? Here's another example of this cognitive dissonance because our friends on the right have chosen not to bother to look past what Trump tells them. This is cult speak, okay? This is, again, talking about Canada. Shocker.
Only works as a state. It doesn't. We don't need anything they have. As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it. between Canada and the U.S. Just a straight artificial line. Somebody did it a long time ago, many, many decades ago. And
okay, I want to address that since I live 29 miles as the crow flies from the Canadian border, which is the longest international border in the world. Donald Trump's claim was that it was artificially drawn decades ago. By the way, the U.S.-Canadian border was originally established by the 1783 Treaty of Paris, which dictated the boundaries between the newly formed United States and British North America, which would later become Canada. 1783 is more than a few decades ago.
makes no sense. It's so perfect as a great and cherished state. Keeping "O Canada," the national anthem. I love it. I think it's great. Keep it. But it'll be for the state, one of our greatest states, maybe our greatest state. But why should we subsidize another country for $200 billion? It costs us $200 billion a year. And again, we don't need their lumber.
Yes,
we don't need their energy. We have more than they do. We don't need anything.
We do. We import billions of barrels from Canada, which is part of the trade deficit that we discussed yesterday. We absolutely need their lumber. One of the reasons that the housing market increased under the Trump administration the first time was because of tariffs on lumber and steel. We don't have enough lumber. We can get lumber in parts of the South, but it's not the same quality. It's not the hardwood, hey now, that we can get from Canadian forests. Do you find it interesting that Canada fails as a country in his mind, but would be a great state, possibly the best state? Okay, again, more confirmation bias, more cognitive dissonance, because his followers will not believe anything other than what Trump tells them. We don't have enough lumber. Trump told me so. Have you ever looked? Canada doesn't have enough lumber. We can do it ourselves. You ever looked at a fucking map? You guys have ever been to Canada? Okay, like have you ever been? I mean, most of the population is within, I forget the number, 50, 75 miles roughly of the U.S. border, whether it be Montreal or Toronto or Vancouver. Okay, and then everything else is just fucking trees and water and beavers. Hey now, speaking of that, speaking of our friendly resident Canadian who can chime in on what we just heard. Good morning, sir.
Friendly neighbor from up north. How's it going there?
Good.
Yeah.
What is the percentage? Like, what's the percentage of the population that's within 50 miles of the U.S. border? It's got to be high, right? 50, 75 miles?
I don't have exact numbers, but vast majority, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because if you keep going further north, it's going to be trees and trees and trees.
And beavers. Exactly.
And beavers, yep.
Yeah.
Maple beavers, hey now.
That's right.
Oh my God, we don't need Canada. I love Canada. We're gonna make them the 51st state. Like, let's talk about it for a second, right? You want to make Canada the 51st state. You want to make the country that is well known for their war crimes and adding to the Geneva checklist. You want to give that country access to pew-pews and make them a state. Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that's a good? No.
And then you would have to give back your universal health care.
Oh yeah, no, we're not going to be happy about that. We're not going to be happy about that. Well, that is, but we wouldn't give that up. We wouldn't give. Don't believe the Maple MAGA. They're full of shit. We don't. Yeah, they're not Canadian.
And it's the obsession. I mean, it's just the way in which. Let me just play this again.
Canada only works as a state. It doesn't. We don't need anything they have.
Canada only works as a state. Doesn't work as a country. It only works as a state, and we don't need anything you got, Benny. We don't need anything. We don't need your lumber. Yes, we do. We don't need your oil. Yes, we do.
No, you don't need it. He said you don't need it. You got to believe what he says. We
Right.
don't need it.
As a
We don't
state,
need
it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it between Canada and the U.S., just a straight artificial line. Somebody did it a long time ago, many, many decades ago, and makes no sense. It's so perfect as a great and cherished state. Keeping "O Canada," the national anthem. I love it. I think it's great. Keep it. But it'll be for the state, one of our greatest states. Maybe our greatest state. But
Tremendous. We'll make a
why
mistake
should we
very
subsidize
bigly,
another
very
country for
bigly.
$200 billion?
Be
It costs us
great,
$200
terrific.
billion a year. And again, we don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We have more than they do. We don't need anything.
I don't even know what to say. Right? Like,
I'm just going
I
to
don't-
go. I'm going to go shut the power off in Ontario. We're going to go, go to BC and stuff. We'll turn off the faucet. It's that easy, right?
Exactly. Exactly. It's going to solve all the problems because I genuinely think that when Trump thinks north, I think he thinks north is like uphill. So then all the water that we would get from Canada would flow downhill through Washington and Oregon to California to help with the water shortages that he claimed that Canada has.
The other thing that we should introduce, we should be talking about when he's talking about wanting to make us the 51st state, which he hasn't really mentioned a lot recently because I think he's fucking terrified of Mark Carney. If I'm going to be honest with you,
I agree.
But it's like we got provinces that want to secede or separate, like Alberta was discussing, and then they consulted with the indigenous First Nations, and they're like, "Yeah, no, you absolutely cannot fucking do that. No way. Like, not happening. Not happening." So, if that's their response to a province wanting to secede or separate, how the fuck do you think they're going to respond to another country wanting to take us over? I mean, discussions have already been happening. I can't speak for them, right? Because I'm YT, right? But I think that does need to be mentioned there. This is a bit of a slight pivot. There is a small something I do want to check you on there, Steve.
Okay.
The ribbon you got with the puzzle pieces for Autism Awareness Month.
Yes.
Yeah, so like the puzzle piece is a bit of a controversial one.
Okay.
Just because it's tied to Autism Speaks, and there's been more of a push to use the rainbow infinity symbol. I didn't know if you're aware of that or not. Just if you're going to be doing any backgrounds, I love the representation. Thank you so much for putting that up there. It's huge.
Sure.
It's important, but just going forward, just something to be mindful of.
You got it. Well, I'll look at that. I found a whole bunch of it. That seemed to be the one that I saw the most consistently. So I'll take that as good feedback, and we'll get that change. I appreciate that, brother.
Yeah. Just wanted to let you know about that. It's interesting. We're talking about the psychology behind not just MAGA but also cults, and as someone who is an ex-conservative, you talk about how there's members of the community. Yeah, I'm one of those. Hi, ex-conservative here. I was down that pipeline. I was a part of. They didn't call it Maple MAGA at the time, but it was the early roots of that, like right around the time of the trucker convoy. So I appreciate this discussion happening. It needs to be said, and it's not as much as I want to try to convince. Well, not convince, but reach across the aisle, or cross that bridge over to try and convince some red hats, or have that discussion with them. It's mentally exhausting. I've been able to help a few folks deconstruct from that, but let me tell you, it is not. It's not easy, and I don't know where to go forward from here. I don't know if that's where we should be putting our energy into, but I think it's good that we're talking about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more we talk about it, again, it's not always the one-to-one conversations, although most people know that I don't really do debates. Not that I'm afraid to have them here, it's just people don't request up anymore. These conversations are so we can have conversations like this. But, at the end of the day, the more times that people can hear the fact that perhaps maybe that they're stuck in their confirmation bias a little bit and they are struggling to get out, that's why we have these conversations.
Yeah, I think I think what the big focus is just keep stay the course, keep doing what you're doing, having those conversations, putting that energy and that message out there. And I'm a firm believer in that it will attract, people will be attracted to that. I think there are going to be those people that may be able to come to those realizations on their own, or maybe they have their own journey and somebody was helping them go down that path of deconstruction, and they come upon spaces like this, that's kind of where I was. I was already on that I will always be on that deconstruction journey. Let's be real.
Right.
But that's what led me to a lot of creators and being in this space and engaging. And I think the same could be said for several people. And stay the course. People will come.
Appreciate you, brother, as always.
So, hey, we made it to Friday. Appreciate you all for being here. Thank you so much. And let's keep doing what we're doing. There's a lot of W's, a lot of small W's. Won the battle, but we have not won the war. Still plenty of ground to cover, right?
Appreciate you, buddy.
As I always say, Steve, elbows up. Keep your stick on the ice.
I appreciate you, my friend. Have a good day and a good weekend.
You too, buddy.
We love Vinny. We always have to check in. Market open, by the way, down 1,055 points or 2.6%. S&P down 2.5%, 156 points. And the NASDAQ down 3.3%. Watch NASDAQ tech stocks. That's a big one. So all that winning. Okay, so we talked earlier about some of the specific examples of the confirmation bias and the cognitive dissonance. And we went through the exercise and talked about all these things about how your belief set is connected to it. So we discussed the elements of the Constitution, right? We talked about how when we discussed Trump wanting to terminate the Constitution, the right said that we were gaslighting. That's not what he meant. Here we now are when he tells people that are protesting that they're illegal protests, which is a violation of the Constitution, saying that himself and his attorney general are the only two people who can interpret the law, violation of the Constitution, suppressing access by the press, not allowing the press into press rooms, telling which journalists can and can't cover the White House, a violation of the Constitution. We went through the exercise about birthright citizenship, right? Again, saying that the president has the authority to determine this and or that in regards to the 14th Amendment, saying that he wants to run for a third term. We went through that exercise yesterday. These are all in direct contradiction to the Constitution. So their argument now, after we told them that this is what he wanted to do, is to say, well, the president has these authorities. Not that it's in direct violation to the Constitution, not that it supports what he said about wanting to terminate all rules, articles, and regulations, even those found in the Constitution. They still don't see it as anti-Constitution, because what Trump has been able to do is to tell them that the executive branch has this authority. The executive branch does not have that authority, plain and simple. Here's another example. Okay, this was Trump on the campaign trail as it relates to the war in Ukraine. We know that he ran on the economy, the border, right? And no new wars. And since he's taken office, he's threatened Iran, he's threatened to annex Greenland, wanted to invade to get the Panama Canal back, whatever that's going to happen in Canada, airstrikes in Yemen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is what his argument, this is what he said on the campaign trail, all right? And again, his voters, those on the right, double down saying he's the guy that's going to end the war in Ukraine. Okay.
Settled in one day, 24 hours. And within 24 hours, that war will be settled. It'll be over.
I will end that war in one day. It'll take 24 hours. It would be easy. That deal would be easy.
I will get it settled before I even become president. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. And it will take me no longer than one day.
Well, I was being a little bit sarcastic when I said that. I would. What I really mean is I'd like to get it settled. And I think I'll be successful.
I was just being a little sarcastic. And you can see the response from the right. Oh, you can't expect him to do that in one day. Well, he told you he was going to do it in one day. That's why you voted for him. Yeah, but he's only been in office one day. That's ridiculous. Doubling down, right? Doubling down. It's just a joke. I was just being sarcastic. Yeah, okay. Okay. That's fine. No problem. You do you, boo. I know, right? Kevin, are you? I don't know if you're connecting. I'm not sure if you're able to connect, Kevin. You can request again if you'd like, Kevin. You can come right back up. Yeah, exactly. Speaking nonsense. So this is part of it, right? This is this cognitive dissonance. They cannot explain why it didn't happen, so instead they got to make excuses. Hi, Anne. How are you? Anne-Marie?
Oh,
are
I'm
you there?
sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't even realize I requested. I apologize.
No
I
problem.
must have hit the
Have a
button.
good
But real fast, I went up
Yes.
to Vermont a couple weeks ago. And of
And what'd you
course, it was
think?
warm. Oh, I love it there. I love Stowe. Want to move there eventually. But it was warm that week. I came on the warm week. There was still snow,
Oh,
but
yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I mean, it's gone. You know, Vermont doesn't exist. Don't tell anybody how great
I
it
won't.
was. We'll keep
But
that
no,
between
yeah,
us.
I want to stay there permanently. Trust me. I love it up there.
I appreciate you saying that. Thanks for being here today. You have a good day. See you later.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Does not exist. Does not exist. Unless you're under threat. If you're under threat, you can come. I have a room in my house. Kayla, how are you? Kayla, are you there?
Good. How are you?
Fine, thank
Yes.
you.
Can you hear me?
What's on? Yes, I can. What's on your mind?
I have a question. This may sound a little stupid, but I don't know anything about 401ks, but I know a lot of people have them, and I'm just curious on how the stock market is going to wipe them out whenever you said that. Can you kind of explain more into detail about that?
Sure. I'm not a financial expert. I've never claimed to be. Basically, a
Right.
401k is something that was established as part of a retirement, as a retirement plan for people. So oftentimes what will happen is that you have an employer who will invest in the stock market because 401ks, actually, I'm going to bring somebody up who's got a little bit more experience talking about it than I do.
Okay. I appreciate
Yeah.
you.
So when the stock market crashes or turns down, people's investments are impacted, and 401ks are connected to stock market performance. But Obi's here; he's a bit of an expert in this space. So, Kayla asked a great question. If you don't mind, sir. First of all, good morning.
Greetings and salutations. Apologies for any noise. Our wife and I are out walking the dog. It
No
is
problem.
approximately 48 degrees Fahrenheit, 641 here in Los Angeles County, and the sunrise is beautiful.
Thank you for that.
Listen, as a California native, I wish I was there walking with y'all, but good morning.
Good morning. So, your question is incredibly complex, so I'm going to just break it down into really easy components
Thank
for
you.
everyone. So, 401ks are baskets of investments. So there's a group of people called portfolio managers, and they manage everyone's 401k at the company that an employer set up. So Scudder, Fidelity, Putnam, people like that, right? And in these baskets are mixed investments. Some of them are equities, aka stocks. So when the stock market starts to drop like it's dropping, it impacts three really important things. It impacts the value of your 401k, which is honestly the most important. It impacts the ability of the persons responsible for rebalancing the basket, meaning put more net positive investments in than net negative, meaning things that are making money, not losing money. And then also, it really makes it extremely difficult across all market sectors for people to understand what's going to happen, meaning corrective action gets incredibly difficult because of all this downward pressure, because these tariffs are causing basically a panic. Now, there is also the fact that people who are extremely wealthy sell and then buy, right? They sell at the top and they buy at the bottom. So those folks are always going to be okay. You, me, and Steve, not so much. So my one piece of advice is to find out whomever it is that manages your 401k. Attend any of the webinars that they're going to be hosting, because believe me, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that's going to be populating on their websites due to the panic. and learn as much as you can about what's in your 401k. And if you can, do reach out to a licensed investment advisor within that group of people and get suggestions
I'll be right back.
and some advice on what you can do to help mitigate the risk, right? And if you want, you can always reach out to me. I'm no longer licensed, but I can have conversations with you and help you with what could be asked and things of that nature. Happy to help. But these are really important questions. It's good that you're asking them. That was in no way a stupid question. That was a brilliant question and very well
Thank you.
timed.
Thank you. So, just so I'm clear to understand, so a 401k is simply something that you, as the employee, have no control over, and the employer is simply investing in the fact that you work for them so that you can benefit from it later on in life, right?
You can control it. So there are two types of methods that can be used with a 401k.
Okay.
There is the directed method in which the company that is managing your 401k has a certain number of baskets that you can select, right? You have investment choices,
Right.
and it'll break those down. Their job is to manage it to not only make you money, but to make sure they're making money. So there's a vested interest for them, right?
Right.
That they don't want you to lose money. They want you to make money. The
Because if you
other,
lose money, they lose
they
money,
lose
right?
money,
Okay.
right? Because you're all in this together. It's a collective.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other is a self-directed program. And I will say, unless you are an expert in equities, fixed income trading, never do self-directed, because that means you're responsible for doing all the things the company does. So if you make a selection and you lose a percentage of money, you've lost that percentage of money, right?
Right.
So just um, please reach out to whomever it is that's managing your 401k. Get the education materials that they'll send you. It's all for free. And when they have webinars, I highly suggest everyone attend them so that you understand the strategies of the company, right? So that you
Right.
understand what they're investing in, because that makes a difference too. You have a right to voice your opinion on these things. Now, if we're all small fish, how loud is our voices? That's to be determined, right? But
Yeah.
you can empower yourself to get the free information, because again, they are really vested in you making money. Like, it's important to them, right? They are greedy capitalists. They want you to be successful. They don't want your 401k to fail, because they want
Mm-hmm.
you to continue to work with them and open up other accounts with them.
Right. So out of curiosity, sorry, just one more thing and then I will drop down. I don't have a 401k, but where I work, I'm working part-time right now, and they did send me a 401k package like in the mail.
Uh-huh.
So is that something that you like quote unquote sign up for as a part-time worker, or is there like certain qualifications, or is there not? Is that why they're sending that to me?
Well, not knowing what's in the packet, I would say yes, no. Yes, it's possible for part-time employees to be offered retirement accounts.
Right.
Those details will be in that packet. Yes, I
Okay.
would encourage you to definitely dive into it. And
Even
if
right now?
there's 100%,
Yeah.
because here's the
Okay.
thing, right? So everybody thinks of only equities trading, aka the stock market, because those are the larger indices.
Mm-hmm.
But part of a larger basket includes things like US Treasuries, right? Which
Okay.
aren't sexy because they don't pay as much interest and don't have as much yield over time, but they're stable for now because the United States pays its debts, right?
Gotcha.
So stuff like that's in there, and different sectors are in there, right? Anyway, DM me, reach out to me, and we can have a conversation about it. Read up on it. and then I can help you out. But just for transparency's sake, I cannot give advice. I can only give suggestions because I'm no longer licensed. So I left that world a while ago.
Hey, I mean, isn't that the best spot for you to give advice when you're not licensed? You can't get in trouble, right?
That's a fair point.
Yes, only if they're suggestions. I can't use the word advice. It has to be suggestions.
Thanks
Just
for that,
friendly
Halo.
Only
suggestions.
suggest.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Thanks
Okay,
for
well,
that,
thank you
Kobe.
guys so much,
You got
Obi.
it,
I
Kayla.
really appreciate your
No,
words.
no, you're welcome.
Thank you for being here,
All
Kayla.
right,
I
you guys
appreciate
have
you.
a good day.
You
Thank
too.
you.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
That was great, man.
Thank
You're
you.
like you're in
I
your
heard
sweet
that and I
spot.
was like,
You're
oh,
probably dancing down the street thinking, "Oh, sweet, I'm gonna dust
my
off my
wife is
cred."
looking how good I look in these pants right now and wondering after she's listening to me what she may want to do with me once we get inside the house. She just yelled, "Oh my God," not in a good
Sure.
way.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you, pal, very,
Hey,
very
really
much.
quick,
Yes.
I was going to say this for later, but let me do this now. So I want to share with everyone that I've been hired as an advisor via the Lollipop Guild on behalf of penguins. And, we all know that penguins can be dicks because we've all seen Madagascar, right? They can't be trusted.
True.
They are some sneaky saboteurs, right?
True.
And also, as it turns out, the penguins are starting to align with the maples. And you know what happens then, Steve?
What happens
You
then,
know the
Obi?
song. Well,
What happens then?
once the trees get together with the penguins, then the United States becomes a province of Canada. That's what's going to happen.
Got it. Got it.
That's
Yes,
what's going to happen.
the rise of the penguins. Thank you, friend. I appreciate you. Love you, buddy.
You're welcome. We love you.
We love you too.
And we'll talk at you later.
Okay. See you
Hold
later.
on. I need to do a particular type of we.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
We.
Walked right into that one. Okay. So it was great. I appreciate doing that. Obviously, always was talking about making suggestions, not here to give advice, but I think that's really long-term investment in the stock market is still a good thing. What we are discussing, though, is the massive transfer of wealth that happened yesterday and will continue today. The Dow is currently down 1,000 points or 2.5%. 155 points down for the S&P, and NASDAQ is down nearly 3%. So we'll continue to watch that. All right. So a few more things. Again, these are just, other examples. The biggest gaslight and the biggest, cognitive dissonance that we're hearing, in my opinion, is the quality of the hires, right? The fact that only surrounding him being Trump and the Trump administration with the best people. Now, we certainly know that that's not true. That's what we've seen, but because Trump has told his base that they're the best. There's so many of them are unqualified. I mean, at least Pam Bondi was an attorney general in the state of Florida, right? Pete Hegseth, need I say more? Kash Patel. I mean, that's the crew. Kristi Noem. So I've got some sound from Kristi. This was an interview that she did a while ago, and we'll talk about why this is another example, right? So let's talk about this particular interview that she did.
Personal data and information.
Okay, this is staggering, the level of stupidity. This is John Oliver's take on this.
Security had a weirdly blasé answer.
I remember a time when Republicans were very careful about and worried about the government, particularly unelected people.
Well, we can't trust
having,
the government anymore.
having access
That's
to
our
personal data.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You are the government.
Yeah.
She just said you can't trust the government, and Dana Bash says, well, you are the government.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, is that the American people now are saying that we have had our personal information shared and out there in the
Elon
public.
Musk has access to it.
Yeah, but
He said
Elon
he
Musk
does.
is part of the administration that is helping us identify where we can find savings. His information that he has is looking at programs, not focusing on personal data and information.
Not focusing on it, but he has access to it.
We'll be continuing to talk to him about what all he has access to.
Respectfully, what the fuck are you talking about? We can't trust the government. But you are the government. Says who? Says you. That's what I'm saying. What about data? Don't know her. What about Elon? Yes, chef. What about Elon having access to personal data? We'll continue talking to him about it. Are we absolutely sure that Kristi Noem shot her dog, or did she just talk to it and its head exploded?
Kristi Noem, right? Her performances when she goes to border towns. She was in Vermont, and we there's a whole bunch of people that greeted her to let her know how they feel about her. Complaining about the government, sick and tired of the government. When presented with that, you are the government. Oh, right, but it's everybody else in the government. It's not us. It's the deep state. Right? It's the deep state. They're the ones responsible. Well, Elon Musk is here to rout that corruption. Well, Elon Musk is the corruption. Well, Elon Musk doesn't access personal people, isn't using people's personal information, but he has access to people's personal information. Yeah. Glitch. Another example, right? Again, people like her, the Trump administration has said we only hire the best. So his base says, Trump told me that he only hires the best. So Kristi Noem's interview when she was saying people don't trust the government, that wasn't this government, that was previous governments. Even though she's in the government now, what about Biden? Okay. All right, we've got some more sound. This is from Senator Mike Rounds from South Dakota. Mike Rounds is a relatively moderate senator, right? He doesn't rattle too many rattle the chains too often. You hear about him because he's a budget hawk. He doesn't believe in excess spending. So this was his reaction when confronted by a reporter yesterday when the reporter said, are you concerned about the stock market?
Right now, I've got to go to another meeting, but I'll be back. Have you seen the stock market this morning? I've looked at it a couple of times. Are you concerned? Yep.
Pretty straightforward answer, right? Are you concerned? Yep. We know that there's a big group of people, both in the Senate and the House, that are really concerned about this because they're going to have to go back to their districts and sell this. They're going to have to go back and tell the people in their base who are suffering from cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias that the party in charge right now is doing this to you. And they're going to have to go back and they're going to have to tell their voters a lie, right? Don't worry about it. Things will be fine. We'll eventually get through this. Don't worry about it. It's totally fine. Trump has told us that this is all part of the plan. What fucking plan? What plan are we a part of? What master plan are we a part of as Americans are losing everything in some cases? Hi, Devo. How are you today? Devo, are you there? Devo going once. Devo going twice. Good day. Okay. A little bit more sound that I want to play for you. This is, and as another reminder, friends, we are in the process of raising money for a member of our extended family. If you would like to make a purchase of items in the merch store, I would really encourage you to do that. And I'd like to ask that you do a couple of things. Please consider subscribing over there at FactsStillMatter.site. We've priced it as low as we can possibly price it. If you decide to subscribe annually, that'd be great. You get a discount on your annual subscription. Plus, if you are a member and a subscriber, you get items, discounted items in the merch store. With that being said, any item that we sell in the merch store between today and next Friday, with the exception of the Sound of Children Screaming t-shirts, any and all items in the merch store, all proceeds from this, the sales of those items will go directly to support this person in our extended community who could use some help. Okay, so I'd appreciate that. Do me a solid, get some cool merch. And if you decide you want to donate, if you want to support in different ways, just put help in your contribution to either my Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal. And as always, we will track receipts. We'll show you every single dollar in, every single dollar out. Okay, thank you for that. I wanted to play this because if I can find that, did I lose it? This was J.D. Vance and their continued obsession with Greenland. What I think is really, really interesting. Actually, you know what? Let's have a little bit of fun first. So, thank you to my mod team. There's a choir that has done their own, we'll call it interpretation of a song any Broadway buffs or musical theater buffs would recognize. So let's play that. This is great.
$96,500 minutes, 96,000 moments of fear, 96,500 minutes. How do you measure the magic this year? Got angry as Zelensky launched his own cryptocurrency, gave Elon the keys to the government doors. He said America could take over Gaza, and don't forget, he banned paper straws. He wants Canada and Greenland and minerals from Ukraine. Got rid of DEI and sold Tesla cars. 96,500 minutes, and through it all, he kissed Putin's ass. It's all about Trump. It's all about Trump. It's all about Trump. Seasons of Trump. Seasons of Trump.
Seasons of Trump. We're totally fucked. Hi, Misha.
Hi, I know the show. Ding.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll play at the Kennedy Center.
Probably not. Somebody just said this. It's great. Joy is a great act of resistance. Yes, agreed. Yep. How are you today?
I'm okay, Just another day in fascist America,
Right, I agree. What's on your mind? What's kind of pulling at your, stuff?
I'm like, are we great yet?
I'm waiting too.
And I think for me, I've been giving a lot of thought to my ex-conservativeness. And one of the major reasons why I was a conservative is because I didn't like a lot of government overreach. And this new MAGA party is all about government overreach. I mean, Donald Trump is threatening governors, private universities, businesses, public schools. Do as I say, or else you don't get funding. If that's not government overreach, and by the way, he's not even asking them to adhere to any law, just his will.
Correct.
And I just don't understand how old school Republican conservatives are okay. I understand because they're not true Republican conservatives. I'm perplexed as we move forward, particularly in this second administration, how they're writing that themselves with that.
It's a great point. And I said this earlier about this whole conversation we've been having about cognitive dissonance, right? I mean, you would probably agree. People who believed in conservative politics believed in small government, less government overreach, lower taxes, support of the military, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that is not today's conservative movement in America. It's just not even close. Not even close.
No. So that's what I'm saying. So these conservatives that continue to back him, these lifelong conservatives, are you bending your own, the things that you once believed in to be a part of the MAGA movement?
Well, here's a good example, right? So there's a lawsuit that's been filed by 19 states, 19 Democratic officials in 19 states filed a lawsuit yesterday against Trump's attempt to reshape elections across the U.S., calling it an unconstitutional invasion of states' clear authority to run their own elections. The lawsuit is the fourth against the executive order issued just a week ago. It seeks to block key aspects of it, including new requirements that people provide documentary proof of citizenship, the SAVE Act, basically, when registering to vote, and a demand that all mail ballots be received by Election Day. The president has no power to do any of this. State attorneys general wrote in court documents, the elections EO is unconstitutional, anti-democratic, and un-American. The reason I think that this is an interesting one is because we heard all along, Mishi, when your rights to your body were given back to the states, states' rights. And now, because people don't have an understanding of our Constitution, federal elections in our country are administered by the states' rights. So states' rights for me, but not for thee, apparently.
And that even comes with the pressure they're putting on every K through 12 school to sign that they will follow this administration's DEI plan, right?
Right.
How's that states' rights? How is that not government overreach? Like, this is the stuff that's really weighing on me as conservatives continue to let Trump trample on what was the party's beliefs.
Yeah, I mean it's a really good point, and Gator just said the same thing. It's in education. I mean, I think I've talked about this before, and it just doesn't get discussed enough, and I wish it did. First of all, we know, Project 2025, Agenda 47. We certainly know. We told people in advance that this was going to be the plan. Again, cognitive dissonance, people not willing to admit it. Now that we see it being enacted, and there's even a website you can go to and you can look at the executive orders and how it lines up exactly based on language, what Project 2025 had said about it. And now the response is, well, that wasn't Project 2025. That's the America First agenda, which happens to be the same thing. Again, in an attempt to justify these horrible things that are happening. Three fundamental principles of Project 2025 was a consolidation of powers to the executive branch. And three agencies that really stood out to me was the FEC, which is the Federal Elections Commission, right? The FTC and the FCC. The FEC is the group that helps administer federal elections at the state level. So when you consolidate that power under the executive branch, then the executive branch writes executive orders telling states how to run their elections. I mean, you
overreaching
can't
power.
Exactly. I mean, telling judges, asking for the impeachment of federal judges when the federal judges are doing their jobs. That's what they're supposed to do. Thank you, Lainey. That's what they're supposed to do. So, and you don't like their rulings. So instead you want to say we're going to impeach federal judges, trying to make the argument that it's unconstitutional when it's exactly constitutional. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do.
And how many judges now are corrupt simply because they were given a Trump case where they ruled in a way he didn't like? So it's what, at least a few dozen.
Oh my gosh, that's probably a small number. Yeah, I mean, Boasberg is this judge who's come under fire, and Mike Johnson is in a very interesting position in this case because he is a constitutional lawyer. So he understands that the judiciary is doing its constitutional duty, but yet he's got to bend the knee. He's got to say, well, judges are overreaching. Similarly, yesterday, he did a presser talking about Trump's claim about wanting to run for a third term. And then he's like, well, the president knows that he can't do that because that would take a constitutional amendment. That's not going to happen. So he's throwing cover. He's providing cover to Trump's bullshit, knowing that that constitutionally it's not going to happen. Exactly.
They all are. I mean, it's not just, it is the whole.
Yep.
And again, that's what bothers me, specifically from these conservatives who have been in office for decades. They know better.
They do.
Marjorie might not know better, but most of them do. And it's concerning. Well, they're not. It's not just the call. It's not just the call for impeachments. It's when Mike Johnson said we'll stop federal funding to these district courts. Whoa, what?
I know. Or eliminate them altogether, to the extent that they have that power within their roles in Congress. Okay, that's where you want to go. So, like we discussed earlier, it's not addressing the issue. It's just hoping it goes away. Similarly with Signalgate, for Caroline, Caroline to come out and say the case closed. Meanwhile, Mike Walls had 20 separate Signal accounts and then was using Gmail to share government information. Case isn't closed. You just don't want to talk about it anymore.
With Caroline, it's interesting to me. I remember a time in history recently when we looked down upon supremacists. Like I thought that was like a negative. Now it's a positive in your resume. I didn't realize that Carolyn Levitt, that's what she was called in college. I didn't know that that's
Absolutely,
where
she was.
I didn't know that that's where it came from because my daughter actually knows some people that went to school with her. But like, wow, I literally just learned that this week. I don't know what rock I've been under, but
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, there's, again,
it's a resume builder.
It is. She's good at what she does. I mean, that's the whole point. You stand there. It doesn't, if you're good at lying, you're good at spreading misinformation. Like we played that sound of her earlier trying to say, oh, Americans won't, whatever. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Buying Americans patriotic. So that's the message, right? The message is it's going to be fine. You're not going to be harmed. We're all going to benefit. And if you buy American, you're patriotic, which means the counter message is like if you don't buy American, that means you're not patriotic, right? And that that weighs on the emotions of the people in the cult. If you're not buying American, you're not patriotic. Come on.
When are we starting to build shoe factories? That's what I want to know.
Exactly. And Michi, do you know the reason why there's not a lot of Ford, General Motors, and Chevy vehicles in Europe?
Because they don't meet the standards to be on the road there, maybe?
Yeah, they won't fit.
Yeah.
They won't fit on the roads.
Yeah, I know that's why the Tesla truck doesn't meet the standards.
Exactly. So that's part of it. How come there's no F-150s with bangling balls off the back driving around the streets of London? Because they won't fit.
Rolling coal. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, exactly. So just some more. You can hang if you want to. So this is just another example. This is just a montage of some of the things that the twice impeached, four-time indicted, sexually abusing frauds or convicted felon is managed to convince his base of the things that he said he was going to do. And now that it hasn't happened, their response is, it's only been 80 days. Okay, let's listen to what he had to say about this.
And make America affordable again. We're going to get the prices down. We have to get them down. It's too much. Groceries, cars, everything. We're going to get the prices down. But prices will come down. You just watch. They'll come down, and they'll come down fast. Not only with insurance, with everything. So tomorrow, I will end inflation. We will cut your taxes, end inflation, slash your prices. I will end inflation. End inflation. Slash your prices. To rapidly reduce inflation, I will end inflation very quickly. End inflation.
Yep.
Slash your prices. We will cut your taxes. End inflation.
So I think he said that he was going to end inflation and lower your prices. That's what I heard.
I think that's why a lot of people voted for him, right?
I think so. And then to end the wars, which that's not happening. Again, he said he was being sarcastic. And this, again, these are other examples of this cognitive dissonance, right? And because it hasn't happened, the response is, well, he was just being sarcastic. Or the response is, well, it's only been 80 days. Or the response is, the president can't lower inflation. Okay.
But he promised.
But he promised. And then the constant quest for the confirmation bias. I'm not sure how long you've been in the lab today, but we sort of did this breakdown earlier about, what confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance is and how people are looking for seeking out confirmation bias. And I'm sure you did that as a former Republican. You probably only went to spaces that supported your own belief set, right?
Correct. And the only way to get out of that is by listening to lives like this, pulling away from your trusted and true news sources. But why would they want to do that? It's challenging.
Yeah, it's scary. If you would, I know the right has claimed that the left is all about identity politics, right? When they are the epitome of identity politics because their entire belief set is connected to Trumpism. Everything. That's who they are. So it's the mediocre white men who peaked in high school, feeling like they're part of something, that they're going to get picked, that they're going to be a billionaire, they're going to have access to all this wealth, they're going to get invited to a Mar-a-Lago dinner party. Not going to happen. Not
I
going to
think
happen.
it's more than that, though, too. I mean, I think the fear of the other side, right? So people often wonder why people stay in violent relationships, okay? Or bad relationships. It's because it's more comfortable being in something you know than something you don't know. And our body does everything it can to protect itself. And there's a bigger fear in the unknown than the known. And I think there's probably some of that with MAGA, particularly in people who live in very Republican red districts where everybody's wearing the hats and that's what they're talking about, the barbecues and what happens if I move away from this relationship. And that's scary.
I think it's a really good point, like the enemy you know, so to speak, right? This will be studied for such a long time, based on a few factors, right? First of all, the fealty to an elected official. Anybody, don't worship politicians, please. If there's anything you've ever learned from myself or Mishi, don't worship politicians. Just don't do that. Just don't ever do it. It's not a good idea.
Ever.
You can respect them, you can admire them, but do not worship them. In fact, don't worship celebrities in general. Worship teachers or community advisors or family members or people that you consider helpful and generous and kind and empathetic and things like that. Second, the lingering effect on what this is going to do, not only economically, not only our position domestically, but our position in the world. And third, what's the alternative for these people, these 77 million people who have given everything of themselves, their entire